Hi, I'm Danny Myers. Today we're going to talk about life and business. And to do that, I invited my friend, Kim Swindle. Hey, thank you for being with me today.
Thanks for asking.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me give you a little glimpse of just how of an inspiring woman that is going to be visiting with us today. Kim is a wholehearted and straight-talking, go-to-battle-with-you kind of person. She is going to go to battle with you in prayer and in strategy, and she's kind of relentless in that kind of way. She spent many years raising babies and now teenagers and adults.
Yeah.
She has been successful in her work, and while at the same time building careers, she has walked hand in hand and side by side her husband in ministry and with her family for many, many years. Kim, you and I met not long ago.
Yeah, hadn't been too long.
No. And from what I have seen, you kind of just pour into everybody around you. It's like this endless well of just giving and building and over again. It's really enjoyable to watch and inspiring for a lot of people around you. I've heard it from people and I've witnessed it in front of me, with just you interacting with your community. I think that's why we get along so well, is people are at a very high value in both of our lives.
Yeah.
And so I think that's one thing that just kind of brought us together so quickly and so almost intensely.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. You've been going through a really beautiful transition recently and stepping out in faith in your new venture, which is Compass and Campus. You are, so Campus and Canvas, I'm going to let you talk about it for a minute because you're going to be able to give much more detail. But Compass and Canvas is where you are helping people unlock their potential through life strategies and their life strategy sessions, right? Where you sit, I'll let you talk about it here in a minute. It's really, really cool. But also in conjunction with confidence coaching, which is unique.
It is unique. It actually is one of those things that it took a while to put words around it because you hit it. It's people and people first. And I just have such a high value for people. And honestly, getting them to unlock all the goodness inside so that they have the confidence to just live life, live their life and live it to the fullest. So yeah, it's been a fun
dream.
Yeah. It is a dream.
Okay. So tell us a little bit about what that looks like with confidence coaching, life strategy sessions.
Yeah, so a session is essentially a one-day intensive. We'll spend a whole day together. I'd say we get really up close and personal. But on the other side of it, it's the confidence that you come out with. The goal is that you can hold your chin up a little higher. Your shoulders are squared up a little bit more. Does it solve all your problems? No.
Right.
It doesn't do that. But you get some clarity and you get momentum and a plan, and you just get that settling inside, that deep settling. I like to call it, I think we all have this internal warring inside, that we have these questions that are swimming around our head and the ifs, ands, and buts, right? Whether you're a stay-at-home mom or whether you're a business owner, there's just all the dynamics to our lives. But through the process and through these strategies, hopefully at the end of it, you just gain that just deepening sense and get your zeal back for life. And it takes this big, broad, like plan and scheme of life, and it just narrows it in and goes, this is where I go.
Yeah, I like that word, zeal. So yeah, not many people use that. I like zeal. Yeah, I like that.
I like it. Yeah.
And it's interesting to me you say stay-at-home mom or business owner or both. I mean, that's kind of what a lot of my conversations are about, is this concept, and it's a very layered conversation that can't be summed up, but it's this conversation of, wow, you're a business owner, you also have 3 kids, and it's not as light switch as a lot of people like to think. So it's like stay-at-home mom, business owner, or both. Because, you know, you're yourself, no matter if you're at your career or at home.
Yeah,
And it's
100%.
One thing I like about what you're doing is it's not just career-based, it's life-based.
Yeah, 100%. It's super, it's real holistic. It channels all those avenues. I like to look at life and everything like a Rubik's Cube. I'm terrible at solving them, actually, but the thought behind it, you know, you have to tweak it and twist it and look at the different angles and move all the little squares around. And that's essentially what it is. Because those coordinate functions in everyone's life, you're right, it translates whether you're at home leading your family or you're leading your business. I do have a special place for business owners. You'll hope I don't get too emotional, but it's a forgotten, I just think business owners get lost a lot in the whirlwind of life. And what I mean is, I think it's easy for us to go, oh, they're running a business, they have it all figured out and all together, when really we're just all people.
Yeah.
And often, you've heard it before, leadership's lonely, and we get to the top, whatever the top is, right? Whoever they determine what that is. It gets lonely, and it's hard to figure all those pieces out. And who do you talk to, right? Where do you turn and where do you go? So I do have a special place for that in my heart, just to help give that connection piece. And again, just a clear path forward. It's that instilled confidence. Everything's in you. It's there. This is just a journey to discover it, put words to it, put language to it, put it on a path so that you can run. So.
Right. Yeah. Business ownership is definitely a silo. And like you said, there's this outside, a very well understood by business owners, that the perception is that I have it all together.
Yeah.
The perception is this, the expectation is this. And so whereas, well, people are people, we're all just people. Whereas it's okay for a stay-at-home mom to say, hey, I might be struggling with this, or whatever. It might not be a stay-at-home mom. It might be someone in a different industry or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
Might be more acceptable for them to say, hey, I need help with this, or I'm struggling here. Business owners, it's another layer of wall. It's this expectation, and I think it's awesome that your heart lies there, especially since that's what I.
Yeah.
But you know, so let's talk about business for a minute and life strategies.
Yeah.
This journey you're on.
Yeah.
Has it always been a beautiful journey?
No. I say no. I describe it as the most brutally beautiful process.
Yeah.
There's beauty in the brutality, as crazy as that sounds. But no, it's super messy. I mean, you know, you've launched a few businesses and you muddled through the mud. So, but no, it's been a journey of self-discovery, obviously, and really digging deep. And then as all business owners have to discover, you have to really hang on to your why. You know, and know that. But yeah, it's been a process for me personally of just learning to just be quiet and shut all the noise out around me. And I like noise, so that was not always very easy. I'm a loud, noisy person, so.
Yeah. And so just a little backstory, you transitioned from a long time with a company.
Yeah, 14 years. Yep.
And you had a seed planted.
Yeah.
And kind of like you said, your why, wanting to go out and help other people. Not that you weren't helping. So I think a lot of times, with those that have that why, that I want to, you know, whatever it is, that maybe it's helping others, like, well, I can do that here.
Yeah.
Okay. But is that the position that you need to be in to help the most people?
Oh, 100%. I think part of that discovery is figuring that out, right? Like, where do you want your launch pad to be from? Where do you want to kind of launch that? But yeah, working with those doctors for 14 years, that's honestly what helped me discover my why. I will forever be grateful for the opportunities there that lied there. But that's where I realized and honestly got my deep passion just for the business owner, because I realized they've got families too. They've got struggles too. They've got life. They have to go home and mow their grass, right? Or at least pay someone, like however it works. So you still have your responsibilities. Their refrigerators still break, right?
Yes.
Life still happens. Their teenagers are still being bratty sometimes, or whatever. So that messiness of life. And that's where I was like, there's got to be more. There has to be more to help people. But I also just believe that everything's in us. Like God, if we truly believe that we are created and designed by God, then He uniquely put all of those gifts and talents in us. But sometimes we just need help discovering what's in there and putting language around it and figuring out like why, or sometimes you've been in it, 30 years and it's like, why am I doing this? I forgot my why.
Or maybe it changed along the way.
It does change. That's a very bad point. It changes.
I mean, I've owned my business for
we change.
Almost 12 years. And I mean, that's something that over and over I've had to revisit, and currently I'm revisiting. So, kind of publicly through a podcast. So it's going to be really exciting to see it all.
That's the beauty in it though. Like it's organic and it's living. We always say, Seth and I always say, healthy things grow, right? And growing things change. And it's just inevitable. Like it's going to happen. That process can be tricky, but it happens. So.
Absolutely. And I think like you said I'm a loud, noisy person earlier. And I think a lot of it is just, and in the spirit of helping people, the reason why I'm on this subject here, because I think a lot of people are looking at this and looking at how do I transition, or how do I feel like I have foundation under my feet again, and setting aside the distraction and allowing those gifts that have been given to come to light can be the hardest part. So I don't know if that's what the challenges that you faced. It sounds a little bit like that, but in your transition period, since it is so fresh, what are some of those challenges that you kind of had to wrestle through to be able to say, you know what, I'm going to put the gas on and lean in?
Man, so many. One was, really having to settle in and know what is a yes. And I know we hear that a lot, like say no so you can say yes to the right thing, right? But I'm like, okay, like I can say no 1,000 times a day. I can also say yes 1,000 times a day, right? But you have to go back to, is it good or is it God? Is it something I'm supposed to set my hand to or not? And really wrestling that out. And I think it goes back to what lights you up. Where am I the most excited? I mean, not everyone, when we do these sessions, like I'll spend 8 hours with you, right? Like most people are like, oh my gosh, like you're with me all day. And I come out so excited because it's those moments of those clicks and those light bulbs and those shifts. You're affecting generations. And it's not only generations in that one nuclear family, like your family, let's say, but it's also your employers and your friendships. It just oozes out because you start living differently. You start living with confidence. You start living with the purpose of who you are and how you're created and your talents. And how. My journey started with a strategy session. That's what helped me. I did it, and I realized through that, like I have language for all this stuff in me, and it's okay. And it's just like it unlocked something in me and said, here, it's okay for you to be fully you. And I needed that permission. I don't know why.
That permission.
I don't know. I did.
I think we all do. So looking back now, because I always try to do this every few years as a business owner, but if you can put yourself in the mind state of looking back 3, 4, 5 years ago, whatever it might be, do you see it? Do you see that this was the journey you were on the whole time? Do you see the little pebbles you picked up?
Most definitely. I didn't then, for sure. actually was spinning like if I were to spin in this chair, just like what the heck. But most definitely, it's pretty remarkable. Even to see, closed doors aren't fun. And there were a couple closed doors that really cut me pretty deep. Excuse me. Cut me really deep to the point I felt like I was living life standing on lily pads. Like I just thought nothing is solid under me. Like, and I'm not talking about like my foundation with the Lord necessarily, like that's good, but just life. Like I couldn't trust my internal instinct anymore. Like it just got so raw and just unsettled. And in that is that discovery. I think you and I talked about it, just the whole butterfly analogy of, when a caterpillar is being morphed into a butterfly, there's a phase in the cocoon to where it's just liquid. It's just a sludge and a mush. Yeah. And that's what I felt like. And I had to kind of get to that point of just letting everything go. One of the hardest realizations that I had to come to was the life I thought may not ever be the life that's really going to happen, for multiple reasons, right? One, sometimes, you look back over your life and you're like, thank God for unanswered prayers, right? Like the best Garth Brooks song ever. Yeah. Yeah. And some of that's that, like just in my immaturity, the things I thought life should be, weren't, but having the wisdom, now I didn't see it as wisdom then, just to let go of those ideas and those thoughts and go, what is this life? What is it? And discovering some of those things through that and going, who am I? Because I answered things from a point of just out of necessity for so long, out of, what's the need at home, or what, even in my work that I worked at, like, just what's the need? And I would just jump in and do it and never stop to go, what can I do? What do I want to do? What should I do?
Right.
So.
I like the lily pad conversation because I think a lot of people feel that way in different areas in their life. I kind of relate that same feeling to, like, obviously my foundation is Christ, but I kind of have this internal dialogue sometimes throughout life where it's like, okay, I get it, but the rock's really slippery and the water's really high. Yeah. Like I feel it, but not very, you know what I mean? So good. And so it's, I like that analogy to a lily pad. So good. Interesting. That's good stuff.
And you feel it good.
Yeah. Speaking of the mom mindset, right? Okay, so this is kind of a touchy subject online. There's lots of conversations that go around this because it's this conversation of, well, you wouldn't ask a dad how they balance it all. But to be honest with you, moms are special. We bring another level of life. And so do dads. Dads are very special. We're about to lean into Father's Day, and there's this so I don't want to lean in and ask you as a professional, how you're balancing both those, because if you're anything like me as a mom and a professional, they are the same. Sure. Right? Yeah. And I don't want to put words in your mouth, but how do you maintain your own self-identity when you have the responsibility of mother, because we don't need to unpack all of those. Right. There's a lot of them. When you lean into that position of mother and wear that hat, pastor's wife, which is a whole nother position, full-time job, as well as pursuing your career, and now career being your business. How do you keep your self-identity?
A big piece, again, everything I talk about has that kind of understood God factor. So just know that, that's understood, God's in there.
Can I tell you that's part of the reason why that question is on there?
It just is. It's on there. So everything is through that. It has to be with it. And I said it 1,000 times, and I'll say it 1,000 times again in my lifetime, but I don't know how people do it without a relationship with the Lord. I just don't. So that's just an understood you, for sure, an understood factor in there. I think for me it was, and I love the word you use, lean, as you lean into these roles, Because you're right, they're not hard lines. They all bleed together, right? Like they just do. And honestly, I want them to bleed together.
Right.
One of the best advice we got years ago was don't put your family and your work in compartments. You know, don't. And that's was at the time I only had I think Caitlin was like 6 months old, so she was little. And I'm like, well, okay, cool. Like, what are you talking about? As she got older, I was like,
great advice.
I was like, oh, that's so good.
Yeah, that's great advice.
You don't have to like have family time here and church time here and work time here.
Yeah.
But like, what if when your kids are at work with you, because it happens sometimes, right? Like, it's family time. Like, you can change those environments, right?
Right.
Not ideal, not all the time. So I love when you say lean, because I think leaning helps get that mindset off of those hard boxes,
right?
Rooms, almost compartments. The other biggest one is just that, like, throw out all the ideas of like what people have, just the pressures people have put on you or that you've put on yourself, or expectations from whoever, whether it's friends, siblings, parents, in-laws. Like, it's just, I'm not saying throw away advice, because I think we all need to seek wisdom, but I am saying throw away those expectations that, one, it has to be perfect. I always say, who's they? Like, you know, they said it had to be this way. Who's they? Like, no one can identify who they is, right? So it's like, just allow yourself the freedom and know your seasons.
Right.
That's it. The seasons matter.
Yeah. And I look at when I think of putting every piece of my life into a box, okay, this is the visual I get. Like a 14-year-old boy trying to drive a stick shift farm truck. Just like, it's exhausting. The engine's going to burn out. Like, we're in a ditch somewhere after not too long. It's very hard to make those sharp transitions. And I feel that it does leave margin in between those shifts to start corroding that identity.
Yeah.
Because like you said, my identity is in the Lord, and it just leaves this, well, you can't be this there and you can't be this there. Well, who am I? And I think that that's a scary place to be. I do think with family time and bringing in, because I've had all of my children. I have 3. I currently have one who's about to be 4 years old, my youngest, but at every one of their ages, and I did not plan this, but every one of their ages, I had them with me at my side, hand in hand at age 3. I didn't do that. And one day, I hope it's one of those pebbles that I picked up where I look at my 60s and I'm like, God is so good.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to tell you, it's exhausting whenever it's going on. But I look at the time when I have the kids with me and at work as a gift. Yeah. Because there's really no setting I could create that would provide them with direct experience and how to have conversations with people you're not related to, or that you don't go to church with, or that you don't see every day at school. Truly, conversations of building relationships.
Sure.
I can't manufacture that.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
So for me, that's how I look at. I look at those life lessons there, and then obviously there's the work ethic piece of it. Give them some work once they get a little older, but
sure. And they're around environments. I think the biggest key is just always remembering that we're in this for the long game. Like, it's not a short game, it's a long game. And I know for me, the moments where I get really frustrated or like I can't do it all, guess what? We can't do it all.
No.
We weren't created to do it all. That's where you push pause and you reorganize and restructure and pivot. Growing up, my dad, he would always say, you very rarely go with plan A. If you think about it, you're usually very rarely go with plan B. It's usually more like C, D, E, F, right? Yeah. So when plan A
didn't even have from the beginning.
So when it gets messed up, just roll with it. Like, it's okay, shift. I grew up playing basketball, love the game, but basketball is all about the game of adjustment. You have to adjust and shift as players.
What a great word.
And it's life. Yeah. And it's juggling those 3 environments, or however many environments, everyone has different ones, but it's, and you have to shift to the game.
Yeah.
And what's in front of you. And sometimes, you make a plan the night before, get all the schedules, and you wake up the next day and
you forgot something,
it triggers everything, and it's like, throw it all out.
Yeah, something's off and the whole plan crumbles, and that's okay.
It is, and it's being okay with that. And not losing yourself. When it goes to not losing yourself, I think we get confused sometimes on, I know I did anyway, for so long I was like, who am I? Like, is Kim still there? But in reality, Kim is morphing into who Kim is too.
Right.
So I think sometimes we get stuck on this identity of who I was and forgetting like I'm growing and changing too. Like as a mom or a wife or a business owner or whatever, like hopefully I am not the same person
I was at 25 or 17
my first
or
kid
whatever.
has a different mom than my fifth. Right? Like it's just the way it should be. And
It is so true.
different wife now than I was, thank goodness.
Yeah.
At year one, like, so I think we have to allow ourselves that too.
Absolutely. And we've talked a lot unintentionally about advice that people have given us throughout the years. And I think that it would be irresponsible for me not to mention that your words, like our words that we're able to share with people and interact with people, have so much value to them. And it may not be for another 10 years when they think of that conversation they had with you and they're like, wait a minute. Wow, wait a minute. That was something they said, and look at what's going on. I think that it's important that we all take that very seriously in what we can speak into people. I also think that your dad and my dad would get along so well. I do. I've never met your dad, but I'll tell you what, my dad's advice of, we were speaking earlier about who they say, and to seek wisdom is this conversation. And probably one of he's going to watch this and be like, really, that's the biggest, but one of the biggest pieces that our biggest lessons was this conversation that we would always have of, you don't have to do what I say. I'm giving you wisdom for you to digest and make a decision from. Leave what's not going to serve. But take what you can use and leverage it.
That's good.
Yeah. And I think that there's this understanding or this idea that you have to agree with somebody entirely in order to take any bit of what they say.
Yeah, I think we see that in the world today.
Oh, yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
That's why there's so much division. It's like,
absolutely.
I want anything?
Yeah, I know. Like, yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about one last thing, and then I'll let you go because I know that you have a whole agenda for the day, right? Let's talk about networking a little bit. Like, in your experience, how valuable do you feel like networking is and building relationships with people in your life? For business.
Okay. That's I can get on a soapbox if I'm not careful on this one, because first, I think networking is very important. I think it's important in any stretch of the imagination to business and life, because you don't know what's around the corner, right? You just don't know. But more, I think where I get really, where I get really vocal about on networking is, I think if we're not careful, networking can turn into what you can do for me. Mm-hmm. And it's that super transactional. And I am just all about people first, value the person. I will always say people over process all the time. So networking for what I can gain, I don't think will get you anywhere. I really don't. Mm-hmm. I can't say anywhere. It'll get you a little bit, but again, it's not going to sustain anything.
Right.
But if you're networking to truly learn about them and learn how they tick and learn so that one day when I meet Susie over here, or John, I know how to connect them with Matt over here, right? Like, because I know them.
Right.
I think there's value in that for sure. And I think we all need it. I definitely think we need it. I can't do this alone. I mean, I can't do any of this alone. I can't do business, life. I mean, it takes a village. It really does, but it takes that same village in business. Mm. It's that like-minded people. I think there's something special too when you just meet those people, kind of like we were talking, to start, and you just click because of your passions or your desires or your zeal or they just get it, right? There's just something about them. And I think there's something really special about that too. But yeah, I'm a definite fan of networking. Think it's high value, but you got to keep it in the right spot and make sure you're.
I 1,000% agree with you.
Good.
Now, what can I give?
I like it.
Value. I like it. You all agree with. Yeah. No, I do. I agree with you. What value can you give? Because, you know, you might look at him like, well, I can't get anything from that person. Well, maybe you're putting their life to give to them and help them. Maybe that's the real gift that you're being given right now. So.
Yeah, 100%. I think we're all kind of meant to be bridges of some sort.
Yeah.
It's just what we are. And it may not be for me at all, but it may be for these two.
Right.
I just was the connector. Like, I don't know.
And what a gift.
Oh,
Absolutely.
I'll do that all day long.
Yeah. Thank you, Kim.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It's fun.
Appreciate it.